Hello and welcome to today's video. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to do another one brand video, but this is going to be on Milani. I had a few of you ask for Milani as a one brand video. So I ended up going to Ulta, picking up some things. I ordered some stuff online as well. I had some existing Milani products. So I'm going to try to do something different as far as the look that I'm going to create. I have done a one brand video already on Milani, but this was several weeks back, and so I've gotten some new things since then that I really want to try, so I thought this would be a perfect time to try those new products out, kind of revisit some things that I've used before that I have enjoyed, and then give you my thoughts along the way, as I do with these one brand videos, kind of giving you my thoughts and whether or not I actually like the product, the end result, and if I think it's actually worth investing in this brand. So if that sounds good, take out your makeup goodies or grab a snack and a drink, and let's go ahead and get started. I'm starting off today's look with the complexion first, which is often my routine. I like to do my base makeup first, then move on to eyes. So for today's video, I'm going to use the No Pore Zone Mattifying Primer. This is actually one of the new products that I recently picked up for this video. I've been wanting to try some more products from Milani, and because we are in summertime, I feel like a good mattifying primer is ideal to have in my collection of products, especially for the T-zone. So that's where I'm going to focus the most of this product, is through that T-zone, and then sort of blend it through the perimeters of my face. But this primer is supposed to mattify. It contains lily and bamboo extracts, and I like the squeeze tube packaging. On the back of the tube, it says Ultra Pore Minimizing, Blurring, and Oil Controlling Primer. Blurs imperfections for all skin tones, designed to extend makeup wear. Lightweight, silky texture, matte finish, enhanced with bamboo and lily extracts. So it all sounds good. Let's actually see if this works. Look at this primer. I wanted to show you the texture and the color. It has like a little bit of a milky white color, but it is going to be clear once it's blended in the skin. It's a little bit thicker as well, and it does appear to have a silky kind of finish to it as well. So as I said, I'm going to focus this mostly in the T-zone area because that's where I have larger pores and where I do get oil production, especially now in the summertime where it's very hot outside. I'm going to get more oil production in that area, and because I know that, I think that having a good skin prep, regardless of the time of the year, is important, especially though in the summertime, prepping that zone with something that's pore minimizing, oil controlling. And I'm also going to pair this with a foundation from Milani as well, so we'll get to see how their primer works with their foundation. So just looking at my skin really quickly after applying that primer, it did definitely tone down the dewiness that I had from my existing skincare products, which I did a few hours prior to filming, but it didn't completely mattify to where my face looks dry and not hydrated. It still looks hydrated, and it does feel silky and soft to the touch, which is great. For foundation, I'm going to use the Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation. My shade is 00BB Nude. This is my year-round shade. I kind of thought that it would be a little darker looking at it in the bottle, but this is actually a very good match for me year-round. But if you haven't noticed, my skin is a little bit more golden. I got some color over my recent vacation, and I wasn't expecting to get this dark. This to me is very dark, and so this may not be the exact match for me, but I do not have any plans on buying all of my foundations in new shades. So we're just going to make this work. If it's a little off, just kind of bear with me and keep that in mind that I do have a tan, and unfortunately means that my foundations do not match. So we're just going to try this out and see how well this works for me today with my neck. And luckily it's a t-shirt, so you can't really see my upper body and my tan lines, but we'll just have to make it work. So I'm going to use my damp beauty sponge to blend this foundation in. And I'm going to try to do a thin, light layer because the match is not ideal. I'm going to definitely correct that with a little bit of bronzer, which will be coming up next. But I do want to use a little bit just to even out my skin tone. I like the Beauty Blender method because this foundation, although it's really pretty and has a good amount of coverage, it is kind of thick when you pump this out. If you have it, you will know what I'm talking about. It's definitely one of those thicker consistency foundations. And for those types of textures and thicknesses, I like to use a damp beauty sponge. So I'm going to take whatever's left on my sponge and bring that down my neck. I personally don't like to apply product or makeup to my neck and my chest, but in this case I'm going to have to blend this color a little bit further down. Milani does have a new product that launched, and I didn't get a chance to order that or pick it up in store before this video. It's one of those bronzing drops. I have so many of them, I just didn't want to buy another product that I already have like at least 5 or 6 of currently in my collection. But if you are in the same situation where your year-round foundation doesn't match, those bronzing drops is a quick solution. You just add a drop, 2, or however much you need, and you can customize your shade. But like I said, I didn't pick that up, so we're just gonna have to make this work. I'm gonna use a little extra bronzer today. I'm gonna go in with the concealer. This is the Conceal and Perfect Longwear Concealer. The shade that I normally wear year-round is Nude Ivory 110. As you can probably already tell, it is a little light. Not a little, a lot lighter than it should be. But we're just gonna make it work. I'm going to kind of balance things out with bronzer next. And because this concealer is not an ideal match, I am gonna bring that down just a little lower than I usually do to help with the blend with the additional products that I'm gonna apply next. So I'm gonna go on the sides of the nose and kind of like a triangular motion under the eye. The only setting powder that I have in my collection from Milani is the Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Powder. This is one of their more recent products. And I will say the shade that I have, even though it's called translucent, it does have a tint to it. And I feel like when you use too much of this on fair skin, it is visible, the tint. And I don't like how yellow it makes my under eyes. So I'm going to use just a little bit of this for the sake of the video, but it's not one of my favorite formulas. So I'm going to use just a light bit of this over the nose, across the chin, and the forehead. Very, very minimal. Just to set and take down that sort of freshly applied foundation look. But I'm not going to be using this to bake as I often do because of the tone of this powder. Before doing brows, let's talk bronzer. I have a liquid bronzer from Milani, a cream, and a powder. I do think that these are really good formulas. The actual contour product, it says liquid contour, but the shade 01 Honey I use personally for bronzing because it's quite warm. It does get messy. You may be able to tell through the cap on mine that it is a messy product. It's a sponge tip applicator. It comes with the territory with this type of component, so just beware of that. This is actually a good formula, blends in very, very beautifully. Their newest cream bronzer, the Cheek Kiss Cream Bronzer in Hey Honey, is absolutely beautiful. I would say this is probably one of the better cream bronzers from the drugstore that actually performs like a high-end. This is definitely one of my favorite products from this line. And then of course their Silky Matte Bronzer that's a powder formula is beautiful. So what I'm gonna do is maybe use both of these, the cream and then top it with the powder, so I can show you 2 different formulas being applied. And then we'll do brows to kind of frame the face and kind of continue on with the routine today. So let's start with the cream bronzer. This is the shade Hey Honey number 110. And for this, I'm going to use my e.l.f. Complexion Duo brush. And I'm just kind of tapping, mostly right now concerned with placement of this product. I will go back and blend in a moment. But I want to go around the hairline, across the forehead where you would naturally get some sun, blend it into the actual hairline to help because my foundation is quite light. And I'm going to start blending this in with like a patting, kind of bouncing motion here. Switching brushes, I'm going to now go in with a little bit of the Silky Matte Pressed Powder to add a little bit more color, a hint more, but to also help me set that cream bronzer so it doesn't move around too much. Next up is brows. I picked up one of their brow pencils. This is the Precision Brow Pencil in the shade 140 Medium Brown. And then I also picked up their Liquid Brow Wax. I thought that was kind of interesting. And I definitely like wearing or using gels and waxes that have quite a bit of hold. So I do hope that this actually holds my brow hairs in place. And it's a Longwear Brow Lock is what it says on the packaging. The product itself looks like it's white, but I'm pretty sure once it goes on and dries, it's going to be clear. And I do like the size of the spoolie. It's a little bit more of a tapered spoolie, so it's a little shorter and gradually gets a little longer as it goes to the base of the applicator. So that's going to be neat to try and see if this actually works and holds. So here we go. It has a little spoolie on the end, and I'm just going to fill my brows as I normally do. So I am going to have to tread softly because this medium brown shade, I'm not sure if you can tell, it is quite dark. It's a lot darker than I thought it was going to be. And I normally like to have a thicker, more full brow just because this natural shape that I've got is pretty thin, pretty sparse, lots of gaps just from over plucking and waxing, changing shape, going from thick to thin. When I was in my, late teens, early 20s, I didn't know what I was doing. And now I'm paying the price for it. So I always kind of overfill my brows to kind of compensate for the lack of hair that I have. So I do go in for a quite thicker, more filled in structured brow. But this shade is a little dark. So I'm going to just use as little as possible and not apply as much pressure. Actually, that's nice. That's went on with ease. This spoolie though, this spoolie's not it. The spoolie is quite rough and hard and I feel like it's scraping my skin. So I don't like that. But the pencil goes on beautifully. And now for that liquid brow wax, we're going to use this to set the brows, kind of comb them up. And just as I suspected, it goes on clear. It doesn't really look white. And I hope it doesn't dry white either. I want it to just kind of blend in. And it's applying a nice thin layer. It's not over applying product. And when you pull out the wand, it's not overly gooped up either. So that's good. So now we just need to wait and see what the end result is going to be at the end of the day, if my brows are going to look the same or are they going to just kind of go every which way. So stay tuned for that. Let's talk blush. It's one of my very favorite products to apply every single day. There's just something just so beautiful about blush and what it does to the face. And I cannot wait to try one blush in particular, which I will show you in a minute. But I wanted to highlight their baked blushes. They do these very well. Luminoso is an infamous blush. It's been around for, what, a decade at this point, maybe longer. It's a beautiful kind of goldeny, peachy pink shade. Beautiful on a lot of different skin tones. It has a soft kind of luminous finish and it's the perfect summer blush. You can use it year-round, of course. If that's your shade and that's the finish you love, you will adore that. But they do have some other shades. The newest one to my collection is Dolce Pink. I'm not sure how long this has been in the Milani line, but mine is broken. I dropped it in my bathroom on the tile and I knew when it slipped out of my hand, I said to myself, that is going to break and shatter. And it did. But this is, I don't want to drop it. The whole top part just kind of broke off. So maybe if I tilt it a little bit, you can see it's a really pretty kind of luminous pink shade. It's like a mid-tone pink. It's not too light or too dark. It's really, really pretty, but it's broken. It's a mess. The Petal Primavera is a very soft one. I think that it's one of those shades that goes with pretty much every look that I do. It's just beautiful. I love this kind of veining that you see in them with a little bit of a goldeny kind of vibe to it, but it's a soft, delicate pink that literally goes with everything, doesn't compete with any eye look, so I do love that. However, I've got to try this one blush. I ordered this because I wanted to try different formulas from Milani. These are the Rose Powder Blushes. I've tried some of the lighter shades like a long, long time ago. I saw this shade called Coral Cove and I thought, I've got to try that. Little did I know it was going to be as bright as it is. It's almost like a neon color. It's wild. Let me show you up close the design on this. It's absolutely beautiful. It's the shape of a rose. I mean, can it get any prettier? I don't think so. Their blush formula is really great, so I'm expecting this to be fantastic. This is absolutely beautiful on camera with all these bright lights. It kind of washes it out, but this is a bright, bright neon coral with a hint of a kind of orangey twist, and I thought that would be so beautiful with some bronzer for the summertime. And we're doing it. This is what I'm going to wear today. I am definitely working this into the brush and kind of getting excess off of the palm of my hand because this color is bright. It's probably the brightest blush that I own. And I thought for summer, why not? Just do something bright and fun. Maybe keep the eyes a little bit more simple and just let this color shine. And this is beautiful. I love this color. Work it into the palm of your hand, get a fluffy brush, and just apply a very thin amount. It actually is really beautiful and wearable. Let's talk highlighters. I have two different formulas. Their baked formula is beautiful. It's kind of a softer take on a glowier highlight, which they do have. But this one can be built up, so you can do a little bit, kind of tread softly, and then add more if you want more glow. Their baked formula is also made in Italy, FYI, in case you didn't know that. But if you like something very intense, very luminous, and very bold, their Strobelight powders are stunning. They do have a few shades. I think they have a palette actually with 3 different colors, and I would say just grab it. If you love highlighter, you will love that formula. This is beautiful on the skin. So I have it here swatched out for you, just a very intense swatch, and then I have it here just softened and blended as I would probably wear it on my skin. So you can see how icy and pretty that is. It's beautiful, but it's very, very glowy. So if you want something intense, the Strobelight powder is the way to go. Softer, lighter, more ethereal, I would say pick up their powder highlighter in the baked formula. This one is particular is the Dolce Perla, which I think I used in my last video. So I'm going to use this one because I love this one so much. And I'm going to just tap lightly on the high points of my cheek with a ColourPop F32 brush. Go on the brow bone, down the center of the nose, the tip of the nose. Easily my favorite highlighter from the drugstore. So I'm prepping my lids with the Milani Eyeshadow Primer. I'm going to be honest, I do not like this primer. It does crease on me still. It does not prevent creasing as it's supposed to. It's always very oily and kind of greasy feeling. Every time I squeeze my tube, a bunch of oil comes out before the product itself. It comes out with a tint, but it goes on clear, and I do have to let it kind of sit, dry, set it with some powder, and then do an eyeshadow look. And I always end up with creasing no matter how little or how much I use. So it's not my favorite. So I wanted to use it today because it is part of the one brand and they do offer a primer. So I thought, let's just try it again. Maybe it'll be a different result today. I'm hopeful. Still keeping some positive vibes here with this product, but every time I've used it, it's kind of let me down. So it's not the strongest product from Milani, so I would honestly not even recommend it. But we're going to move on, set this with some translucent powder. And for that, I'm going to use the same translucent powder that I use for my concealer and just go right over the primer with my damp beauty sponge. For today's video, I picked up a new eyeshadow palette from Milani. This has been out for quite some time. I did have one from this range of palettes that I've used before, and it's the Gilded Mini palette. So the one that I own is the shade called Whiskey Business. I like the name of that. I think it's really fun. This one is an all matte palette that gives you all the staples that you need for any eye look. You've got a little bit of a cool vibe going on. You have some warmth. You have some light highlight shades, some deeper shades, but I've used this before in previous videos that I've included Milani for eye looks, so I don't want to use that. And I also have used some of their eyeshadow sticks. Mine is kind of loose. This one, every time I open it, it kind of pops out, so I'm kind of disappointed. These are okay. These are not like the best, but I did pick up another Gilded Mini palette. This one is in the shade Call Me Old Fashioned, and this looks so beautiful. You've got a series of shades going from cool, going into deeper kind of smoky shades. So you have some kind of icy vibes like a silver here, but then you have a nice brown to kind of ground everything. You also have this kind of warmer shade here. And then you can do something with like a bit of a silvery kind of taupey shade, and then do something very extreme and smoky, deep and dark with this matte black. And here's a look at some of those swatches. This one here on my thumb is the kind of smoky shade there, and it's not really coming off with a lot of pigment, so that's kind of disappointing. But the other ones, these other 4, do seem quite soft and very pigmented, so we'll see how they blend. Here's that dark shade, the last one that I couldn't swatch. As you can see, it's very dark. It's not quite matte. There's this subtle kind of satin finish to it, so I think it's going to look matte once you blend this in, but you can do a really deep, rich, smoky eye with this palette. You can do something every day, a little bit kind of cool, and then you can also take it to the opposite end of the spectrum and do something a little bit more on the warmer side. So I like that it gives me some variety, and I'm excited to try this palette out. Since that Call Me Old Fashioned palette doesn't have any sort of transition shade that I think would be ideal for me in today's eye look and where I think I'm headed with this look, I am going to hop over to the Gilded Mini palette in Whiskey Business because I want this shade right here, which looks to be a very light, very, very light tan shade, and I think it's gonna work for transition and for blending purposes. A crease brush from Milani. This is an old brush from a couple years ago. It was part of a travel set that I bought probably 4 years ago, so I don't think that they make this anymore, but just any crease brush is gonna work for this step. And I just want to apply a thin amount of this to help with the start of the look, kind of create the shape, get that color in my crease. I'm kind of tempted to use this rose gold bronzy type of shade. I love shades like this because it adds some depth and smokiness, but it's not so intense that it looks like a nighttime look, and I can definitely pull it off in the daytime. It adds some color, but it's not colorful, if that makes sense. So it's got color and a little bit of depth, but it's not super smoky and it's not bright, okay? I hope that you get where I'm going with this. But I love shades like this. I'm not too big on silvers. I just think that it's just too much for me personally on the lid. So maybe we'll do that in the inner corner, but I do want to take this color with my finger and just apply it all over my lid. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. With the crease brush that I used earlier, no additional product. I'm just going to blend the edges so that it's a more seamless transition between that lid shade and my transition color that I had already applied earlier in my crease. For my lower lash line, I want to add a little bit of smokiness, so I'm going to go back to that Call Me Old Fashioned palette, and I'm going to take that cool brown shade, and I'm going to add a little bit to the lower lashes to add some smokiness and just kind of make this a little bit more of a cohesive look and show you a few different shades. So I'm going to use a small little detail brush from Morphe, and I'm going to start applying the most product out here, and then I'm going to taper and blend lightly as I work towards the inner corner. Then I'm going to incorporate that lid shade also on the lower lashes with the same brush. I'm going to go right over the top of that dark shade. And why not try that silvery shade in the Call Me Old Fashioned palette, which is the second one, for the inner corner with a small detail brush. I'm going to use just a little bit because that is quite pigmented, and it kind of gives me those icy vibes just like the highlighter does, but this is a lot more of a cool tone shade. I think this shade would be beautiful for a look for the holidays because it's kind of like those silvery kind of vibes. And that's what I think of every time I see a silver color. I always think of the Christmas holiday. I don't know why, but I feel like that's the time of the year that I'm probably the one to kind of venture out and do something different with a silver. It's that time of the year. It's not normally like a go-to of mine, but just lightly, it's pretty for the inner corner. For eyeliner, I'm going to use the Stay Put eyeliner in Semi Sweet, which is a very dark brown shade that kind of almost looks like a black brown. Comes with a smudge tip and a very small kind of teensy applicator. So I think this is going to be really nice to give me a little bit of smokiness really close to the lash. I'm going to do a very thin line, and I'm also going to tight line with the same eyeliner. Today's mascara is going to be the Lash Extension Highly Rated Mascara. Comes in a really bright turquoise tube with a gold cap. This is my second or third time using it. I've had this tube for about 2 months now, and it's not really my favorite. It is a tubing formula, just to kind of call it out. They also have a different type of mascara that is more of a traditional formula. It's the anti-gravity. It's a gold tube with a black cap. That is also not something that I'm a fan of. So for me, Milani's is just not the best for mascara at the drugstore, personally for me. If this is your favorite, then by all means continue using it. I'm going to try it again. Maybe I'll have a different result today since it's been sitting in my collection for some time. So I'm going to use this to do 2 coats on the top and then a thin coat on my bottom lashes. And here is a look at the completed eye look with the tubing mascara. I just personally do not like how this mascara makes my lashes look. I feel like it's kind of clumping the lashes a little bit. It's a little too wet of a formula personally for me. And my type of lash, I just like something a little bit drier. And it also doesn't build up nicely upon itself. I try to do 2 thin coats, very even coats as well. And the more I try to comb through and separate the lashes, the worse it's getting. So I'm just going to have to leave it as is. If you've never used one of these, it's actually pretty interesting. It comes off in like little tubes, so like little specks. Versus a traditional mascara, the moment it comes in contact with water, it's like an ink that's running down your face. It transfers, it gets everywhere, and you get raccoon eyes very, very quickly. That does not happen with tubing mascaras. So I think it's good for this time of the year, but this is definitely not the one that I would recommend for you. So this is definitely a pass, unfortunately, for me. Let's talk lips. Milani has it all. Literally, they have it all. Lip balms, lipsticks, lip liners, lip stains, you name it, they've got it. So I've got some formulas that I want to kind of highlight and talk about just very briefly. I'm going to zip through this. They have plumping glosses, so the Keep It Full ones, I do like those. It's more of a kind of cooling, tingly, minty sensation, not painful whatsoever. They have the infamous Fruit Fetish Lip Oils. I have a few shades of that to try and test out and play around with. I do think that they have a really good selection of colors. They have the Fetish Lip Balms as well. Lipsticks, I know you've seen these, okay? If you've gone down the drugstore aisle, you have noticed the Milani section with the displays of these sort of geometric, kind of shiny looking tubes. Really pretty lipsticks, nice formulas. They have some that are a little bit skinnier and more kind of glossy, so kind of like a balmy gloss lipstick formulation. Their newest product though for lips are these lip stains. So let's talk about these very quickly. These are the Color Fetish Hydrating Lip Stains. So they're very different than your typical stains. Typical stains go on very thin, very watery. They dry down pretty instantly and it feels like nothing is on your lips, but it leaves behind a stain that wears well throughout the day and can last for hours. These give you that, but it's a little different because it's a hydrating formula with a bit of a glossy finish. Now that sort of hydrating formula does kind of wear off like a typical gloss would, but initially going on, this feels very different. So if you want a stain that's gonna last for several hours with a touch more hydration to it, look at this range from Milani and I think you will enjoy it and not be disappointed. I did a video a while back with the Rose Rising and I mentioned that I wanted to pick up another one. So I did. I picked up the shade Pink About It number 140. I do think that these offer quite a bit of a bold color and I think it would maybe clash with the eye look and that bright bold cheek that we've got going on. But these are phenomenal formulas. I do love these and I think that they offer something very unique and different that I haven't seen a lot on the market, and I haven't personally tried a hydrating glossy lip stain. Let's start off with the Color Statement Lip Liner in Nude. I think it's a perfect shade to start this lip look today. These are the classic sort of traditional sharpened wooden pencils. They also do have automatic lip pencils if you like that formula better in that packaging, but there's something so nostalgic about a classic wooden pencil that you have to sharpen every time to get a crisp line. But these are actually a really nice formula, very affordable, so I'm going to use the shade Nude, which is number 03. Before I put anything on top, I wanted to show you this lip liner. It's a beautiful everyday type of shade. This honestly could be a lip look. Just this, some clear gloss, and you're good to go. I think I'm going to use one of their classic cream lipsticks in the shade Secret. This one looks like it's more pink, but when you swatch it, it definitely looks a little bit more of a lighter nude, and I think it'll play nice with the plumper. The other one is a more shiny kind of glossy finish in number 110 Lustful, but this actually pulls very warm. So I think I'm going to try just using a little bit of the lipstick in shade number 430 Secret. So this is the classic lipstick. Go a little bit over the top. This is the Keep It Full Plumper in number 04 Luminoso. I think it's going to add a really pretty kind of sheen to the lips, add a little bit more moisture and that kind of plumping effect. So I'm going to use a little bit of this, and it smells kind of like peppermint. It reminds me of the Buxom lip plumpers. If you've ever tried those, these are very similar. And here's the completed lip look. I do think the end result is really pretty. I do like this lip combo that I just did. I think it's really pretty and I can see myself wearing this combination again in the future. The only products that I didn't really care for were the mascara, the actual primer for the eyeshadow. That does still crease on me no matter how much I use or how I prep my lids. So it's kind of one of those that I'm just kind of, I think at this point, if I get creasing today, I'm just going to kind of give up on that product. And then the translucent powder, I think it's a little too tinted for my skin tone, and I think that it's just a little too much, especially for that baking technique, as I mentioned earlier. But I do think that Milani makes some really great products. A lot of their products are made in Italy, which makes really great cosmetic products. So really high-end formulas for still affordable prices. So I definitely see myself reaching for these again. Don't sleep on their products. Like, they have some really great things. Their blushes are amazing. Bronzers, the foundation is great. Lip products, their eyeshadow palettes, they do perform well. They blend well. I mean, everything was pretty much really good except those top 3 products that I already mentioned before that were not my favorite. So I'm going to list it for you in the description box in case you want to shop any of the products. You can also follow me on Instagram. We can be friends there. Subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care, you guys, and we'll talk very soon. Bye-bye.